Okay, it's September the 5th, 2019, and we're on to part two of this video book of me going through my manuscript, Ethical Presence. Up to this point, I've gone through the introduction and part one, which is improvisation. That's the title of part one. Part two is improvisational teaching. I'm going to put an asterisk on that. This does not only refer to teaching improvisation per se. It's a pedagogy. It's an approach to teaching. And as I was reviewing this section, I really think right now I'm in the process of I'm applying for faculty jobs at so adjunct or clinical professor jobs. And one of the things that you're often asked is what is your philosophy of teaching, your methodology? And of course, in their format, that they want something that's very brief. But really, this section is about my approach to teaching. And I'm going to offer it in the same way that I offer everything else in this book. It is not a system telling you how to teach if you're a teacher. Actually, everybody is to a certain extent, right? I mean, it doesn't matter what your profession is, you have to teach. I know when I was practicing law, I had to teach all the time. But it is meant, like the rest of the book, to provoke. It's art, so it's something that that you can view and that can resonate. And I definitely think of teaching as an art. Okay. All right. Well, let's get started with these pieces. The first one is beware tyrannical gurus. No one teaches improvisation, experience does. So this first piece is about improvisational acting instructors. But again, hopefully the piece gets to a more universal application. All right, let's get started. What's the difference between a dictatorial improvisation teacher and the leaders of the Church of Scientology? Control of billions of dollars in real estate. Rimshot. Art leadership plus lust for power and money equals fascism. Hitler was a failed artist. I've written a lot about fascism. I had the whole section of the blog where in the early days, when Trump announced I saw a fascist, but I was able to see it really clearly, and I wasn't able to see it because of a scholarly study of the nature of fascism. I was able to see it because I've known a lot of fascists, and that's a big thing that happened with the rise of Trump. There are a lot of fascists in this country, and some of them didn't even vote for Trump, and some of them teach improvisational theater. Hitler was a failed artist. Good artists don't dictate. Did you ever notice that most actors who self-identify as right-wingers suck? You never see Meryl Streep stumping for the NRA. The banality of evil is attempting to shape a world in the image of L. Ron Hubbard's mediocre, crazy science fiction or Hitler's Mein Kampf. Did you see the Nazi imagery at those Scientology rallies? The huge podium raised stories high and the big flame, the church of insane success worship, blessings from the God of power. Ugh. And who are the suckers that get exploited? The mass in the arena audience before Scientology's current grand douchebag, or the improv guru with the secret of the moment, who wears an amulet with a chunk of Chris Farley's heart in it. Timid souls who envy the rich and famous or want to be more rich and famous and want to succeed or succeed more. They will do anything the guru says if they think it will further their careers and get them attention. The guru can then leverage this power to extort money and slavish psychological allegiance from his students. Real art instruction is a conversation. A practicing artist shares exercises and comments that reflect his approach to the form. A confident student doesn't hang on every word as a golden key to his success and happiness. The confident student engages and considers what the artist has to say, and over time applies the personal experience that he had in the class to his own life and work. Nothing disserves improvisation more than a cult of personality's exploitation of it. Teaching improvisation is an art. Art never tries to accomplish its aim through material power. Art is directed to free hearts and minds. If you come across an improv teacher who uses a lot of rules in his classes, run away. Improvising is not like driving a car. A good instructor helps you discover your and your ensemble's own way of doing it. If the teacher claims an expertise in the art of improvisation, run away. The teacher should have a wonder and an awe about improv and be learning alongside of you. It is a vast, mysterious subject that no one will ever fully understand. And the point is ultimately not to understand it, but to experience it. If the teacher promises that if you follow his teachings, you will be commercially successful, run away. It's not that easy. If he's selling you success of any kind, improvisation will not make you rich, famous, or happy. You're the one who makes those things happen for you, if they do. If you achieve those things while improvising, it's because you've discovered the nexus between improv and your success. No one else can do that for you. Art is a sharing of feeling and thought, not a manual of mandated life choices. Good improvisation instruction will sometimes resonate within students. They accept it because they feel in their souls that something was said or occurred that was true. The authority in the proper improv class is the truth, and never the instructor. If the teacher is disrespectful to you and speaks to you in a bullying tone, run away. If he shuts down your intelligent questions and initiations, run away. If he never has a quizzical look of wonder on his face, run away. If you encounter a teacher who censors what you say in exercises or tells you to change your personality, run away. Shut up and you aren't good enough are not in the lexicon of a good improvisation teacher. If you run into a teacher who always wants to make you feel dependent on him and asks you to continually take classes from him, run away. If you teach improvisation, stay focused on what you are doing. Forget yourself, forget your money problems and your insecurities about how much respect you have been denied in one circumstance or another. Forget your regrets about your career. Come unprepared. Your job is to watch the exercises and the students and to respond to them kindly and intelligently in the moment. The moment is what teaches. You just help it along by meeting it with generally the most experienced eyes in the room. When a student has more insight than you, defer to him or her. Good improvisation teachers can sometimes unwittingly go into Scientology mode. I had a teacher call me a novice recently. I take classes. Well, I used to. I don't take them anymore. I don't take any classes. I really don't want to deal with it anymore. I don't need it. As a matter of fact, when I wrote this, I probably shouldn't have been taking them then. But anyway, so I take classes. I always get something from the experience, if not from the teacher. Yeah, this was, which I am, I read this stuff and I'm evaluating and I'm assessing it. I'm saying, oh, this was a good piece. And I wrote this piece after a painful experience in an improv class with a bad improvisation teacher. So I guess that's what I got out of that experience. And let me continue with the text here. I get a lot out of what I choose not to use and what I choose to even oppose and confront in my work. I have more and broader experience than he does, something clearly evidenced in my credentials and in my work. A good guy, again, I'm doing this thing of saying he's a good guy. He's not necessarily a good guy. I don't know. He wasn't being good to me. So I'm editing that out. I'm not going to say he's a bad guy either, but a good guy, no. Um, so edit that out and just do the rest of the sentence. He made an intentionally faulty assessment of me because of his personal insecurity. And he misunderstood my openness and vulnerability as a lack of confidence that he could use to try to raise his own standing with the group. Improv teachers, everybody has their moments. But you have to be bigger than this in order to do your job. And actually, you should be focused on your job. You shouldn't be focused on that bullshit. Good guy. He's a mediocre guy. He has some sentimental kindness about him outside of the classroom, but he's living in an illusion. He walks around. He wants to feel that he has some sort of success and expertise, and he poses as hair doctor professor, and it's not true. I've had teachers assume that I can't listen in an improv because I'm verbal and articulate. I always remember what the great teacher Paul Sills told me when I was uninterested in object work, a big tenet of improvisational practice. Who gives a shit? The whole purpose is for you to be free and connected to the collective, and you are. I've had teachers censor what I've said in workshops for reason of taste or social or political content. The effect was always to constipate the entire class and block creativity. A workshop is a gloriously unfinished thing. It should be a place to overstep and fail and decide where boundaries should go. The teacher's personal fear can bully the ensemble out of determining those boundaries for themselves. An improvisation teacher should never assume that a student has the same objectives for his art and life as a teacher. Once a teacher told me that improvisation wasn't an art. I don't even know where to start with that one. I guess he saw himself as some minister of parlor games, disciplining people to play charades properly. He attacked the word art because that meant he would have to surrender control in the class. That prospect terrified him. Great improvisational workshops unleash individual authentic voices into collective harmonies. Control of content of personalities is anti-improvisational. Thanks, bad teachers. Reacting to the ways that you suck has made me a better teacher. An improvisation teacher and students, when in doubt, think Paul Sills and not L. Ron Hubbard. Okay, that was pretty good. All right, let's see what this next one has to bring. This is titled Starring Ben Affleck as American Hero and featuring Dr. Henry Louis Gates as the Mythmaker. I make theater. Okay, I'm not sure. I make art. I don't think it's theater anymore. At the time that I wrote this, I was doing the Rick Blog live on stage shows. We're trying to. So it said, I make theater. I'm a college professor. I still am, although I'm currently without college. I'm interested in the truth. I'm interested in human development. What follows is a tale of corruption, exploitation. What follows is a tale of corruption, exploitation of the naive, and the betrayal of art and education. Full disclosure, I write this because I feel that I have better ethics than Ben Affleck as a theater and storytelling artist, and Professor Henry Louis Gates as a teacher. I am motivated by an aspiration for real achievement and not seduced by superficial notions of success that make a lot of noise and sometimes leave one discredited by the time of one's obituary. And that's my agenda here. Just telling the truth, folks. I write today with a feeling of moral superiority. I feel I am the real thing, and Affleck and Gates are usurpers that make things more difficult for people like me who really do the job. We always have to unteach the lies of the hacks, like the star and the star professor. These guys piss me off. I see Affleck and Gates masquerading as an artist and as a teacher when they are merely engaged in self-promotion. They come on TV well lit, accompanied by moving music and high production values. They sell the appearance of authenticity and curious investigation and reflection, but don't actually engage those values. They must know what they are talking about. They are on TV. To call what they do junk food would be unfair to junk food, because at least it's really food. Someone who tells a story or instructs people about storytelling should be honest. Really telling a story and really teaching are hard things to do. It's not easy to be honest. There is such a thing as absolute truth, but no one can understand it completely. It's too vast and is a mystery at its core. All we can do is do our best. But we sure as hell can't lie or omit relevant information. We'll never get near that elusive truth, the quixotic mission of all true teachers and artists, if we deny what we know, think, and feel. The artist and teacher have to try to describe the truth to the best of their intelligence, character, and ability. It takes intellectual rigor, concern, compassion, and courage to tell the truth. It takes a sense of concern for the well-being of the class or the audience. The highest ethic of a teacher or an artist is to never mislead. Teachers and artists try to help people, including themselves, understand life better so that they can live it more fully and at its highest potential. It's a humble thing to do, not a showy one. This whole episode reminds me of Charles Van Doren and his role in the quiz show scandals of the 1950s. Van Doren played the role of reality show genius on television. It was all phony. First, answering a lot of trivia questions correctly does not make someone a genius. So the uneducated audience was misled on that one. Lied to about the nature of real thought and intelligence. Secondly, the producers intentionally gave him the answers and seduced him to go along with the scam to boost ratings. Fame and some money for Van Doren, big money for the producers. Van Doren was a narcissist. If people thought he was a genius, that was good enough for him. He'd get all the money and superficial status. Van Doren got caught, but he would have suffered even if he had gotten away with it. He opted for the nothing life. Van Doren could have gone on a path like most of the rest of us and tried to figure out who he was and what he was good at. But he sold his soul for a little money and transient attention. He cheated himself out of the chance to create a life at all. Affleck won't live the rest of his life in shamed seclusion as Van Doren did. He's much more powerful. Society is much more cynical now. Affleck will get away with it, or at least with his riches and status as a movie star intact. But he is still stuck with the nothing life. He will continue to worry a lot more about how he comes across than about who he actually is. And the Oscar goes to someone who has exiled himself from his own creativity. As everyone knows, Affleck went on Professor Gates' PBS genealogy show and learned that one of his ancestors was a slave owner. He didn't want anyone to know and asked Gates not to mention it. No word if he was disappointed that Professor Gates didn't discover Affleck's virgin birth. Typical joke that I might deliver on stage. Well, not anymore. I don't get all the pride surrounding the Confederate flag. I'm a proud Italian American, but I don't have pictures of Mussolini and the mafia hanging in my house. Italians have brought much culture, art, and thought to the world from the time of the Roman Empire to Michelangelo to Leonardo da Vinci to Fellini to current fashion and industrial design and much more in between. And sure to be after, plus the food. Italian culture has also incubated organized crime and fascism. All of that, good and bad, and more, is part of who I am. I am a human being. I am not perfect. I deny none of it. I'm an Italian American. I am not perfect. I am an American. I am not perfect. I'm a human being. I'm not perfect. And somebody mentioned something that could throw into this. I heard on TV, someone was I never thought of this, but it was a provocative idea that I haven't fully processed. That Ancestry.com is part of all this white nationalism. And, as Paula said, if you really want to say who we are, you can trace our genealogy back to Africa. Wherever Homo sapiens emerged from, wherever our species started, we all go back to that. So maybe it's as simple as is not saying, well, whether you're a descendant of people that were involved in the Confederacy or being an Italian American and being of an ethnicity that spawned the Renaissance and also fascism and the mafia. I mean, we might just come to the conclusion that that the genealogy is all human. And the reason why I pause is because, okay, so Henry Louis Gates had this show about ancestry, and I think it was partially motivated for African Americans to claim a history and a heritage. I mean, like almost anything else, it's a worthwhile thing to explore, I imagine. But in what context? All right. Mother Teresa did business with that guy from the savings and loan scandal of the 1980s, for Christ's sake. That's Keating. And I'm not being profane here. She sinned to serve her ambition as being the world champion Christian lover of the poor. Charlie Chaplin's mother went insane. He never denied it. He put compassion in his truthful work for her. The director Peter Brook wrote that theater was dreams mixed with shit. We carry all that is holy and all that is ugly within us. Affleck's problem is that he wants the dreams and not the shit. Art is about looking at the world truthfully and describing it with love. Ben Affleck is no artist. He looks at the world and he wants to portray himself as the savior. He isn't supposed to be descended from slaveholders. He's supposed to free the slaves for all of us who aren't as smart and good looking. He's the leading man. We're supposed to identify with his perfection and in that way be kind of perfect too. We're the good guys. Ta-da. Ben Affleck is in marketing. He doesn't have a product, not even himself. Just a brand. And that's all, man. What a great example of the meaning of the word shallow and the deep unacknowledged suffering that the shallow endure. Occasionally, life blurts a wake-up call to get real. The Sony emails revealing Affleck's conspiracies and lies. But Affleck will ignore it. What? And give up show business? Typical comment I might make in one of my classes. Learn from experience. Keep what you think is good, intellectually, morally, or ethically, and get rid of the rest. Don't get stuck in your shame. Own it and change. Look at all in thorough detail so that you can make discerning life decisions. Dr. Gates said that he honored Affleck's wish to not include Affleck's slave owning ancestor on the show because other persons on his family tree were, quote, more interesting. Do I really have to unpack why this is obviously nonsense? Dr. Gates may well have chosen to focus on other ancestors for a large number of reasons, but he couldn't fail to mention the slave owner. Why? Because he's there and obviously has some level of interest for everybody. Beyond audience interest, revealing the existence of the slaveholding forebear is a clear social and moral imperative. Showing the connection with Affleck demonstrates how the mass atrocity of slavery is not an act done by another people in a distant time, but a sin committed by us that still touches our lives and that influenced the evolution of our family and who we are. Gates knows this. He also knows that his series would be less profitable if he lost Ben Affleck as a guest. Gates compromised the ethic of his life's work for his own commercial popularity and stardom. Shame on you, Professor Gates. When do you stop teaching? Parson Weems wrote a hagiography about George Washington, which included the famous fable about no lying related to a cherry tree. Affleck wants the same type of baloney about himself. Gates was happy to oblige. Lots of money and power and all that for heroes and hagiographers. Childish America still believes in myths, sentimental bullshit, and fables. Many still want to view a fairy tale world with heroes and princesses and villains. Childish America goes no deeper than a Disney feature-length cartoon to Affleck's Argo, a story about Hollywood saving the world. And let me read that again, just to make it clear. Childish America goes no deeper than a Disney feature-length cartoon, or deeper than Affleck's Argo, a story about Hollywood saving the world. Art and education, people. They are more engaging than show business. They are not toxic and have no empty calories. And everybody gets out with their souls. Okay, that's this installment. See you next time.